Little icing in the hills there.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. The town of Lawrence acknowledges that we are on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respect to our First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reconfirm our relationship with one another. Okay, I'll, adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or what we see, what we got?
I have some business arising in committee minutes and reports to add about regional waste.
Okay.
I'll move to adopt with the addition.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. The minutes of the December 13th meeting, are there any errors or omissions?
I'll make a motion to approve the December 13th, 2022 minutes.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion is carried. We'll move into delegations of the council. We have Gail Anderson, who's first on the agenda. He's got about 10 minutes. So feel free to podium if you like.
Okay. You know, I'm going to start here first off. I'm going to have to single out a couple of you guys. I'm not trying to pick on you, but I don't know if there are many people in the room right now. So I'm going to start with you, Joe, first.
Okay.
Okay. How big is your house, Joe?
Are we doing that?
Yeah.
1750.
1750. Do you have a lawn?
How long is it?
A lawn.
How long?
Grass.
No.
No, you don't. Okay. You got a power washer? You got equipment. You don't wash your equipment or anything like that? Okay. Okay. You got laundry in your house and stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Jordan, how many people are living in your house now?
My wife, myself, and my daughter.
The three of you then, basically. Okay, so you guys have laundry in your house.
We do.
Do you have a pressure washer?
I do not.
Do you have a lawn?
I do.
Okay, did you water your lawn last year or no?
It looked like it, but no.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get into my presentation here now, here's what it is, okay? I'm here with my sons, Moses and Phoenix, who are both members of the Laurent Indian Band. We're here to talk to you about the water rates and billing for apartment buildings. So Moses, you can go ahead, please.
I have something from the municipal bylaw guide I'd like to read. Just it is the municipal bylaw guide right in the introduction under authority to pass bylaws. The general power to pass bylaws provisions of municipal legislation seem to provide unlimited autonomy to council. However, such all-encompassing powers can be deceptive. Municipal bylaws and federal level of government have passed many laws dealing with public order, health, safety, and so on. The provincial and federal rules take precedence over local bylaws.
Okay, I'm gonna sit here, guys, if you don't mind. Also as stated in the bylaws, sound form from the government of Saskatchewan, council may govern the municipality in whatever way council considers appropriate within the jurisdiction provided by the council of law. You wanna go ahead, Phoenix?
Okay, so according to the official online Merriam-Webster dictionary, extortion is defined as the act or practice of extorting, especially money or other property, especially the offense committed by an official engaging in such practice. The second entry states, and I quote, something extorted, especially a gross overcharge. I would also like to state that a common synonym in relation to extortion is defined as overcharging.
So now I'm gonna go to this and say, well, what's a gross overcharge? To look at extortion, what's a gross overcharge? Is that charging somebody one time and making them pay for it? Is that 2 times? Is it like 20 times? Is it 50 times? Is it maybe 785 times in the last 7 years I've been charged for water and sewer on vacant apartments? That's 785 times the town has charged me and forced me to pay through all sorts of types of coercion, where I've had a mayor tell me to take out a loan, where I've had a lawyer threaten to shut down my business and send letters out to my tenants and basically destroy my business. You know, the bottom line to it is, in 2022, I was charged 169 times for vacant apartments, you guys. 169 times, okay? Every one of you guys will realize that is a gross overcharge. every sense of the word. It's also my belief that when Northern Services first approved the rate increases back in 2016, that they in fact erred on a fundamental principle in their own guidelines, and that is simply this. And it's from the Saskatchewan government. They applied for approval of water and sewer rates, section 2, under guidance. The LGC's approval is based on the following criteria. The rates are equitable to all users. It's quite obviously not the case for me with the billing here, you guys. You turn around and you look at the fact of consumption, whereas the town is charging an apartment building 75% of what they charge a house. How can you justify that? My building is 23 one-bedroom apartments, one bachelor suite. You're telling me that these 23 apartments use 75% of what a house uses? I only allow so many people in my building. So that's one person in that building, one person in that apartment. And I'm being charged at a rate of 75% of what a house with 3 people in it is? With laundry? None of these people in these apartment buildings have lawns. They don't have laundry. I don't even have a lawn to water for the apartment building. I've got 2 laundry machines in the whole building. That's for 40 apartments. This is basically, again, now with the town charging 75% of what they charge for a house, that's a gross overestimate, you guys. This is all on assumptions of the town, too, I might add. Originally, when the town set this up, they turned around and said that people use 500 gallons a day. This was an assumption by the town, or 500 liters per day. The national average is 340 liters according to Environment Canada. So how can the town say it's 500 liters when Environment Canada says it's 340 liters? And I can even prove with a meter on my building that the consumption is far less than that. I mean, I went at one point, we did a calculation on there, we proved that people were using 134 liters per day, only. That's 134, and that's for the household, with one person in, 134 liters. I'm paying more for water and sewer than any place else in Canada. When you look at the billing and the consumption, I'm being extorted, you guys. Now, you guys aren't doing this. It was your predecessors, and I know that. They made some mistakes here, and mistakes were made. Things have to be straightened out. I mean, the bottom line to it is, again, when you look at it, for being charged 785 times in the last 7 years, for 169 times for last year alone, this is wrong. This has got to be adjusted, it's got to be fixed, you guys. So what I'm doing here is, I'm here and I'm asking for a refund. I want my money back for those 785 overcharges. I want my money back, plus the interest you guys charged me on this. Plus, I want you to turn around and realize this is wrong, you guys. And I know what affects my apartment building will affect the other apartment buildings in town, but I'm just a small businessman here, you guys. I don't have anything else but that building. And when you're charging me 169 times on a building where I've got, how do I do this? Where do I come up with this money from? This is a gross overcharge, which basically comes down to extortion. So the bottom line, it's a hard word for you guys to swallow, but the bottom line to it, right now, this town is extorting money from me, and it has to stop. You guys need to refund me. You guys need to look at this issue and adjust it so that it reflects fair billing. I've tried to get the town before to accept occupancy report. They wouldn't do it before. Previous councils wouldn't do it. You guys should do that. Theirs was the trailer court agreement where the trailer court sent in information every month and they were billed according to the occupancy. Why can't I have that?
That's only fair.
You know that? Well, yeah. Why can't I have that? You know, or any other apartment building in town. When this whole thing started, I set up a committee here in town. It was the Rentalsmen Association. I had an administrator at the time who's not with you anymore, denied me to come into council because my water bill wasn't paid. When a new council came in, I formed that council of that. She's no longer with us here, basically, is what it was. I don't know what's on her own board, or she was fired. I have no idea. The bottom line is, I've had administrators deny me time. I've had, again, a mayor tell me to take out a loan to pay the water bill. That's ludicrous. You know, I mean, really, it's ludicrous, you know. So again, what I'm here for is, again, 785 times I've been charged in the last 7 years, you guys. You know, and again, 169 times for the last year alone. You guys need to adjust this. You need to give me the refund and give me my money back and do what's fair. And again, I realize that what you have to do for me, you're gonna have to do for the other apartment buildings in town. I'm only speaking for myself right now, but I'm sure I can get this organization back together and it could become, you know, bigger than it has to be. I just want to be treated fairly. You guys, and no other business is taking a hit like I am on this, basically. Nobody. I mean, you've got like Nortel, they're a big corporation. They don't have to worry about it. You know, you've got individuals here that they want to fight it, but they can't. And I'm here now. I should also state that back in 2016, when this all started, I was on this, set up this committee, and we approached council on a couple occasions. I then got sick. I had mentioned that I was going to take it to court, is what it was, because the bottom line to the whole situation is where's this one now here? No, that's not it. It says that any regulation that infringes on the fundamental right of an individual can be challenged in a court of law. I'm being extorted. I can take this to court, and I will win, you guys, and that's the bottom line. So the bottom line to it is, you guys didn't do this, but you have the power to fix it. You have the power to prevent an embarrassment for this town. You know, you have the power to do what's right. And sure, it's not going to be popular with the common person, with the people with the big houses. Well, it's not going to be because their water rate's going to go up. You know, but the bottom line is that it'll be fair. You know, either that or start charging me by consumption. I've got a brand new water meter that was installed back in 2016. Start charging me by consumption. You guys all know, you probably even talked about it. You know, meters are the future. You know, why not start now? You know, like, so I'm going to leave you at that. Again, I'm requesting the refund. I'm also requesting that you either start taking vacancy reports to ensure some fair billing, and to also reduce the charge on the apartment buildings themselves, because there's no way that a one-bedroom apartment with one person in it uses 75% of what a house uses. There's no way, you guys. And again, the town has no empirical data to back anything up. This is all done on assumptions by previous councils. So you guys got to realize you have no empirical data. What I'm telling you is true. You can prove. I've got a water meter in my building. I can show you what my consumption is. I am paying the most for water in all of Canada, basically. So there's my presentation to you guys. I'll leave it with you and decide what to do from there, basically.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Okay, we have a delegation with,
John Howard, is that it? Don Howard, is that it?
John Howard, yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, Sean. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks so much for your time today. My name is Sean Fraser. I'm the CEO of the John Howard Society of Saskatchewan. I have my colleague Blair Rollins. He's our Director of External Relations. We're both based out of Regina, and they're excited to be here with the city of Regina. So thanks so much for having us. I just want to tell you a little bit about the John Howard Society, and I'll get into why I'm here. John Howard Society started more than 60 years ago in Saskatchewan. Our traditional mandate was serving men exiting the justice system, exiting the justice system. Things have evolved a bit over time. About 15 years ago, we got into youth housing, so now we run 7, about to be 8 youth homes across Saskatchewan, mostly 4 in Saskatoon, 3 in Regina, 1 in Moose Jaw. And recently, we've taken on a contract with the Ministry of Health to deliver integrated youth services. So that's going to be a new program that's really focused around youth mental health, and a chance for the Ministry of Health to get some of those good services that exist, connect with youth and communities, you know. So for that program, John Howard's been hired as a backbone organization, and that means that we're going to be sort of the last link of the bureaucracy to deliver that program and deliver the virtual element of it. But then through this calendar year, we're going to be choosing 3 communities across Saskatchewan that will host an actual physical drop-in location. So we can think of it as like a youth drop-in space, but sort of a focus around mental health resources. So a little bit about why I'm here today. My board has a good healthy board made up of great volunteers from across Saskatchewan, and they're constantly reminding me that there's lots of good nonprofits in Saskatchewan, there's a much smaller list that have a provincial mandate, and we're one of the fortunate groups that have a provincial mandate. So they're always asking me, Sean, what are you doing to serve the North? And I never have a good answer, because we have an office in PA, we have an office in Saskatoon, we have an office in Regina, and an office in Moose Jaw. But you know, that's sort of the extent of our services. So yeah, someone on our board had a connection with Councillor McPhail, and you know, I thought, well, maybe a good start would be just to come here and to meet with some folks and sort of explain what John Howard is up to, and see how that relates to the needs of the community, and just try to take a first step towards seeing how John Howard can expand our services into the north if there's a place for that. So I called Councillor McPhail about last week, and he said, oh, might be up Tuesday, nice to meet you. And I said, oh, Tuesday, we're having a council meeting, you don't talk to council. So here I am. So really, I unfortunately don't have anything like to offer to say, per se, just to tell you guys what we're all about, and say that we're interested in those three things: youth housing, youth mental health, and of course helping with those involved in the criminal justice system. So with that, I'll probably just pause and see if there's any questions or comments.
I do have one.
Yeah, sure.
So in the mandate, and as you said, you kind of like expanding or looking at it expanding into northern Saskatchewan.
Sure.
And I guess what can that look like? What have you done in the like urban centers that you're currently in?
Yeah, sure.
And what can that look like in northern Saskatchewan?
Okay, excellent. So I'll just get a little more into detail about some of what our actual programming looks like. So I'll tell you, we're 4 officers with about 100 staff across Saskatchewan. When it comes to justice programming, right now we have a full-time lawyer that works, represents people who are incarcerated. You know, if there's judicial processes within prison, he can represent someone in prison. You know, so that's open to anyone across the province. We have a 1-800 number for people who are incarcerated. They can call us and we'll try. We can talk to people just to talk to them, or we can try to connect them with other services. We run a program called Adults Reintegrated into Community. So just as it sounds, we'll connect with people on their way exiting custody to sort of help them try to stay on track as that transition happens. You know, maybe we're connecting them a couple months before they're released and provide a cell phone, help them connect with family, help them find a place to live. We have adult housing now in Regina and Saskatoon. So those are designed for people exiting custody primarily. Housing, I'm sure as you guys don't know the exact situation here, but I'm sure as you guys can appreciate housing is such a challenge everywhere that you know, if people need a house, we can help them find that. Our youth homes are what you might expect. They're either between the age 13 and 15, or 16 and 18. There'll be 5 youth in a home, and we provide those family supports that a traditional family might provide. You know, and try to do our best to give people a family-like experience while they're in our care. You know, that can be going on trips and stuff like that too. You know, I'm proud of the work we do there. It's actually pretty homey places we run. And we have a lot of youth that come through our program. Some of them have very difficult stories, and everyone's story is unique. So we also have youth. While there's some youth that leave our care with all those challenges that people might expect, there's also youth that have gone on to SIAS or university. We had a youth recently who was playing rugby at the national level. And then integrated youth services, I mentioned. There's going to be a competitive process coming up in the next few months that will choose 3 communities. One of those being a large urban center, so presumably that's Regina or Saskatoon. One being a mid-sized urban center, and one being a rural, remote or northern community to host one of these drop-ins. So that process is about to launch. So I'm not meaning to give Laurent an inside track or anything. We'll have a fair, transparent process, but in the coming months, we'll have more information publicly about what that process will look like, and then be looking for community partners that are interested in coming together, likely as a lead, like with some lead players, to make an application and then have a fair and transparent process to choose those communities. So I don't know if I answered your question, Councillor McPhail.
Yeah.
What might it look like here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a question that I'd have is like, in Saskatoon, you had mentioned like some transitional housing. Would that be like the Miwasanoda?
Yeah, that's Saskatoon Tribal Council, I think, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one's a little bit different. That's for women exiting custody. I think if we're talking about the same program.
Yeah.
Our adult housing would look like us renting a house from Saskatoon Housing,
Okay.
and then having an intake process to kind of vet people that will be a right fit in the house. We want to take people with the most challenges that we can make, help to succeed, and that doesn't mean only the most challenges, but it does mean picking people that need our help the most here. And in that case, like our outlet home in Saskatoon, we'll have staffing generally 16 hours a day, and no staff there at night, but just help people with that next step of housing as they're exiting custody. So again, a bit of an odd presentation that I'm not here like, hey, here's what I want from you, but I just again, it's easy in the south. I'm sure some of you folks know, or maybe you all know. Maybe it's blatantly obvious. It's so easy to forget that Saskatchewan isn't in a PA. So here we are. And I'm doubly guilty because I grew up in Cardiff, the deep, deep south. So way further north from me.
Have you guys talked with Ronge Regional Housing about a partnership and what you would do there for housing for those coming out?
Yeah, that's excellent. So we were out yesterday. We've had a chance to meet with Legal Aid, and we met today with Dwayne Johnson at the band office.
Restorative justice.
Yeah, that's right. And Chris Marassi, we had a meeting with today. Men of the North, I'm sure you guys are very familiar with where Chris is doing. So that hasn't been on our list yet, but definitely we partner with the other housing agencies and all of, not in PA yet, but we partner in PA, Regina, and Saskatoon. Sorry, Saskatoon, Regina, and Moose Jaw with housing authorities. So certainly that would be the type of thing.
So you guys are looking at starting up an office here and...
Yeah, again, I don't want to oversell my visit here. Really, this is just a preliminary step to kind of introduce ourselves.
Introduction.
And just, it's been great so far. I think the people we met with are getting a picture of the need here, is unique and real,
So I guess success is measured in different ways for different folks.
Sure.
But in your model of programming and finding, as you say, like those family values and the experiences of some of the people exiting custody, what would you say is like the success rate? And what I define success as is being reintegrated in a healthy way into society, having a lower rate of, I guess, a reoffense of a similar nature. And I know like what we hear in northern communities is that they feel that the criminal justice system seems to be a bit of a revolving door. I'm sure that's not just in northern Saskatchewan, but you feel that the same criminal is getting out of custody and has not been necessarily rehabilitated. They're going back into the same circumstances and scenarios of which put them back into that life of crime, and you see that reoffense occur. And I guess, how have you seen your successes in breaking that cycle with the people specifically in your programs?
Yeah, thank you so much. I've got 2 hours. Well, yeah, great. Lots of different ways to define success. I'll say, like for our youth programming, generally when youth are in our care, I would say generally there's 105 partners MSS has, I think, that provide youth housing. That's my understanding. For the most part, when people are in those houses, things are generally going good. It can be chaos. You show up and there's chaos to be clear. It's young people with real young people issues and real complex issues and trauma and addictions and all those things. But generally when youth are in our care, the outcomes are wonderful. It's when they leave our care that's a challenge, right? How do you if people are leaving to no supports, right? No family supports, no work supports, that sort of thing, that's when challenges happen. When it comes to people in the justice system, same thing. I think that when we're able to offer supports, the outcomes are anecdotally they're wonderful. We have lots of success stories. The challenge is that for all of us, it takes a lifetime of social network supports, our families and our faith communities and our work communities and our school communities, all these things to kind of deal with these issues as they continue to come up. So again, I'm not quite answering your question, but it's to say that while we're able to offer supports, and I say us as John Howard, but also the nonprofit sector as a whole, I think outcomes are great. And then the challenge is how do you sustain those when people leave? I mean, the ideal scenario is people leave and the issues that were dogging them beforehand have gotten sorted out. And they've exited a gang or they've reconnected with family, that sort of thing. And when that happens, that's success. And if not, this is back to the revolving door you're talking about. Just one final note on that. The federal government has recently approved a framework to reduce recidivism. So recidivism means leaving prison and coming back. And we're really excited about that. They haven't tied any funding to it yet, but it's been through the House and been approved as sort of general framework, you know. And I just think it's such an exciting issue because it's a non-partisan issue. You know, there's a lot of left and right issues, you know, when it comes to how we should manage society. But we can all agree, if you leave prison, don't come back, you know. So I'm excited. Federally, I think there's going to be some opportunities for organizations like ours, potentially for municipalities like yours, to help with that.
So your organization, you talked about how people leaving the supports of like being involved with your direct like housing program and stuff like that. How involved is your organization with setting up or tying into those outside supports once somebody leaves the direct care of your organization?
I would say probably varies community to community, but depending on the size of the community and how well there are connections, that's crucial to our work, is putting a lot of effort into connecting to that network. You know, we're based in Regina, so I'll just use that as an example. There's dozens and dozens of nonprofits doing work that's related to our cause, not necessarily through a justice lens. You know, there's domestic violence shelters and there's youth programs and there's all sorts of things, you know.
Yeah.
And the more effort we put into integrating with those, the better.
Do you play a bit of a hub role when it comes to that? Do you find that your organization often is the one to tie them together? Because there's a lot of organizations that exist in La Ronge, an area that are justice related or youth related or violence related, and like La Ronge, for our statistics, we're like #1 in violent crime for the size of our community, #1, Canada.
Sure.
So there are a lot of small programs, measures, organizations kind of trying to take their stab at it, but I find just in some of the research I've done on other things that they don't often relate well and don't have a central hub to work on the bigger problems around the systemic issues.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that because that's a challenge. Lots of need to hear, that's a clear. And I think it's one of those things like in your work life, in your personal life, you have the want to list, right? And then you have the have to list. And I don't know, has anyone ever got to the bottom of their have to list? I mean, that's a pretty rare character. And connecting with other organizations, that's very important work, and oftentimes it goes by the wayside because people are busy putting out a fire. So I would say anecdotally, we try our best to do that because we appreciate that. There's a couple things in Regina, and well, every community is unique, but to pick on Regina again, we have a housing first model that we sit at that table. So if somebody presents it as homeless in Regina, a shelter, or through police, whatever, they'll sit down and take an exam, a 2-hour SPDAT score. It's what's SPDAT stand for?
Service prioritization
decision assessment tool. So it's more or less a report card to say, how homeless are you? Which sounds ridiculous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
But I get it.
If we it's easy to be cynical about that because for homelessness, the recipe should be if you're homeless, then you're homeless. You know, you should need a home. But we actually look at barriers to entry for housing, and people get a score of 1 to 60, which is a bit crude, to be clear, totally screwed. But it we'll take 10 people and we can say you have the most barriers, which might include lack of family supports, addiction issues, trauma issues, mental health issues, physical health issues, and you on this end, you're homeless, but you just got to sort things out with your wife, or you just need to, you've got, I shouldn't say just, that's a big job, but you've got like a different set of issues, and then we sit around a table that meets weekly, bi-weekly, and close the door and talk with people on a first-name basis and triage who goes to what organization based on how high their SPDAT score is. So for instance, our contract with that table is we work with 12 people that would have a score, I think, between about 45 and 55. So pretty complex needs, but then there's another group that works with people from 55 to 60 that's like more complex. So some of that's happening. But so much of everything is a function of how big your place is, That's just like, every town's unique, but it's so much, When I compare Regina to some of the bigger cities, there's differences, and I'm sure Regina to a smaller place, there's just differences.
You'd probably be surprised at how many similarities, because La Ronge is a service center for most of the north.
For sure, yeah.
We have big city problems on a small scale, or contained within a small geographic area.
It's all personal too, because knows each other. I could imagine there's that too. So.
There is that too, yeah.
So to sort of cycle back to what you were saying before, that you had 3 communities that you're kind of, if you will, mandated to kind of
Yeah.
work with to create a youth drop-in program. Are you looking at working within some of our successful nonprofits in the community to be able to like bolster those programs, or are you looking to provide a duplication of those services?
No, it would be a competitive process where a lead agency, likely a nonprofit, would arrange, would work with their community to get people on board and then put in an application. So not looking to at this point, not looking to reinvent the wheel, so to speak.
Okay, so maybe for the benefit of our community and our nonprofits, I don't know if administration deems it appropriate or council deems it appropriate, but if there was some like criteria or a link to a website or anything that once this does become available, that we can share it amongst our social network pages and those things to be able to open that window of opportunity for our local NPOs?
Sure, we would be happy to do that. And again, if there's a couple weeks down the road, I'll have firmer information on that. But the plan is in the next short while before the snow melts in Cardiff, we'll be having a series of webinars to invite people just to hear the details of what the process is going to look like, and then the process will be a fair and transparent, competitive process through the end of the fiscal year, like sort of into the spring.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so we'll make sure. Is one of you live? Great, let's meet you live. I can be in touch with Lyle or through Councilman Phil. Make sure that there's you're on our list, that when that information is available, we'll send it around. So. Yeah, I don't know, any other questions? So you got a busy agenda.
Yeah, I just have a final quick one. So what are you looking for in terms of, you spoke of a competitive process, what are you looking for in potential partners? What would that look like for a potential partner in terms of commitment? You spoke about arranging services, kind of taking the lead. What other components would a...
Excellent question. Unfortunately, I don't have, I'll be making that up if I try to define the detail, but in broad strokes, I would imagine the committee, which I should be clear to, it won't be John Howard proper that leads the competitive process, but a community.
Community-based committee, yeah.
I would think buy-in from the broader community would be a good thing, to have kind of a unified voice from community, whether that's a big city or a rural smaller place. I think demonstration of need, certainly that's important. Those would be the first two that come to mind. Existing resources, we're not in a position that it needs to be shovel ready, but certainly an organization that we're not having to go in from scratch and there's no existing resources. That would be a feather in someone's cap if there was already people doing good work already.
Yeah.
So again, those are kind of broad categories, but
okay. I was just curious. So would there be a financial commitment from whoever would take the lead at the local level? Like, would one be expected from the partner, or would the John Howard Society provide that?
The contract that we're handling has money for capital, so that could mean it's a physical drop in space, right? So there's going to be I don't have an exact dollar figure, but it's called healthy money. It's health money actually. So
okay, so wouldn't all the onus wouldn't necessarily be all on the partner?
No, there would be a chance to buy or build or renovate a physical space. One thing is this is happening in other provinces.
Yeah.
If you're interested, there's the name of it in BC is called Foundry. There's about 21 foundries in BC. Ours will look a little different. I mean, everyone will look a little different, but they have 21 locations, and not to say it's like McDonald's, but it's branded in a way that if you walk into one foundry, it's sort of like it's branded. We're first getting together a youth oversight committee to help with branding, but Saskatchewan will have its own branding here, and the hope is that all the centers sort of look the same, but there'll be funding to purchase, renovate, or build a location, and then there'll be ongoing operating funding. For now, our commitment is the rest of this fiscal until the end of March, and then there'll be a 3-year commitment after that. And the hope is that if it as well as it has, in other provinces, that it will grow. I mean, things change, but that's what we're hoping for, is that it'll start with 3 and grow from there. So.
This may be a little bit reductionist, but I'm just curious, is there like a specific outcome this is meant to achieve?
Yeah. Another good question. What is a tough group? I would say that really the push behind this is an increased awareness of mental health. Mental health isn't a new invention, right? But certainly times have changed as far as how we recognize it and recognize the effect it has on our society, particularly youth mental health. And I think right at the heart of this is that we have a health ministry that there's so much good stuff to say about them, and they're huge. And it's hard when you have, like, they have the resources, but if you're only delivering, say, youth mental health resources through, say, the emergency room or something, that's a very small group of people that can access that for a number of reasons, for ability to get there, for willingness to get there, that sort of thing. So this is really the spirit behind this is to connect communities, in sort of a ground up, grassroots, real, from the community place, with those mental health services that some already exist, and some of them are pretty fresh, and some of them are going to fill in the gaps as this gets going.
What do you define youth as?
12 to 25.
12 to 25?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
has there ever been
24, 25. But yeah.
integration with an 8 to 80 kind of program, or like where it encompasses a bit larger age range to like be a sub-program of a bigger community mental health space?
Yeah, that's a good. I don't have a real answer for you. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's-
Can you build a uniplex?
A drop-in center at the Uniplex for you.
Love it. We got 1/8 of the building built. Yay.
Drop-in center.
Well, maybe if we can get one built, we'll make the space for that.
Yeah.
You can work with the youth in there.
I guess if La Ronge, an organization in La Ronge was to compete but not be chosen, is there future opportunity to, if there's funding from other sources, partner up and do something similar, or bring that to the community?
As with any good competitive process, we want to make sure it doesn't waste anyone's time.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure the process happens in a way that there's some value in the process. So even if you lose, you win, sort of thing. Manitoba is about 2 years ahead of us. They have a group called Huddle. Is their acronym? I don't know if it's an acronym, but they're a title for it. And they just did this. We were talking to them recently. They just did this similar process 2 years ago, and they had 21 applicants. So I don't know if that'll be this. Who knows? You know, same with different Manitoba and Saskatchewan. But the hope would be that if we can engage that scope, that many communities, that there'll be a chance to start a short list of next time there's 3 more applications, that there's a group that's kind of thought through and they're a little more shovel ready.
Yeah.
And also certainly one of our obligations is delivering like the virtual component of this, so hopefully trying to keep people engaged to figure out whatever that means. Obviously, easy virtual is like people on a phone, but distance engagement, let's say, not just over the internet. So,
Sounds good.
Will municipalities be eligible to participate in the competition process?
I was worried you were going to ask that because I don't. I'm sure there is a real answer for that, and I don't have it.
Okay.
I'll make sure that's clear when we get the information.
Okay. If not, then that way we can.
So I can't say involvement absolutely, but that lead agency that would hold the contract.
Or be a nonprofit.
I want to say yes, that is
Okay.
responsible, but I want to make sure I'm not giving you.
Okay, no, for sure,
So
for
we'll make
sure.
sure that's clear. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So as part of the criteria, would the greatest amount of need in a community weigh heavier against another community?
Yeah, it certainly. I'll tell you, technically, how I think it'll play out is that there'll be a scorecard that'll probably have half a dozen or a dozen scoring criteria, and I'm sure that need will definitely be weighted in there.
Yeah.
It'll be all of them will be one of many, but definitely need is at the heart of it. So need is in. I mean, there's different ways to calculate need too, right? Like severity of need, and also just having engaged youth that if you have a drop in space are gonna be around to enjoy it too. So.
Well, I certainly think your programming would have a positive impact in our community, and serve our community to in our community we were successful. That's for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
for your presentation.
I've had a chance to pass through La Ronge, be here briefly a few times, but it's just been really nice to spend a little bit of time here. A lovely place you have. I'll say one thing. The people I've met in the last 24 hours really speak well of La Ronge, so that you should appreciate that. There's a town pride here that doesn't exist. And we're certainly not Regina, actually. Lots of places. That's so nice to hear that people met with people who bumped into on the street. People are proud to be from here, and there's a reason for that, so you guys should enjoy that. And thank you too for your public service. Full disclosure, I have a history. I was a city councilor in Regina for a term, 2012, 2016. So I know the grind a little bit, and you guys are doing of all three levels of government, you're doing the hardest, most personal version of it. So hardest, the most important, most personal version of it. Let's say that. So thanks for your time.
As you witnessed tonight, we get nothing but bouquets.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, thank you folks very much, and allow me to be in touch.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Have a safe trip back.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Drive through downtown so you can check out the lights and the rink on the
We
ice.
went for first date yet.
Okay.
Sweet.
Get those little like feet warmers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. See ya.
Okay, we'll move to committee reports. Minutes of the steering committee for downtown revitalization. So the 6th and November 9th. Any discussion on that? Any highlighting?
Your Worship, I just could mention that we'll be looking at having a public open house on February 8th over at the Ogling Lounge in the arena. So our group is meeting tomorrow night with the project consultants to go through some of the action items that are coming out of this work that's being done, and we'll be advertising that through available sources for February 8th at between 5 and 9 p.m. It's a Wednesday night at the Uniplex.
Did the meeting in December happen? I noticed there was supposed to be a meeting set in December.
Yeah, there was one where the group met to discuss kind of the next part of the report. The minutes aren't adopted yet, so they'll come to you when they're adopted. So we, at our meeting tomorrow, we're going to be reviewing those and adopting them. We've been chunking through this, like it's voluminous.
Fast paced.
Yeah.
How's it going, Abby?
Pretty good, I think. We've got some firecrackers on there. So there's lots of debate and back and forth and really picking into the interests and framing it in, how does council view this as a plan to be able to adopt, as well as representing kind of the greater interests of the community downtown, the greater community looking beyond. So there's some fun discussions.
Yeah, if I can interject, it is a diverse group that all represent different interests, which is really important. So there is like variety in terms of people's views. And I guess the one positive thing I'd really like to acknowledge is that everyone who's sitting at that table has a deep passion for the community and to see it become better than it already is, right? So I think that's really important to note.
We're also squeezing every ounce of goodness that we can out of our consultants. I think there is a physical squeeze happening through Mr. Long. Yeah, yeah. So it isn't going to be a junk plan that sits on a shelf. I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, we hope to have a whole range of action items that come out of it that'll be prioritized, and then the council will be able to review those and decide what it wants to pursue within budget limits, of course, and what have you.
And tangible, real things that actually can have really positive outcomes.
And that we actually have control over, right? Because that's the other piece. There was a lot of feedback that came from the general public around items that we as a council and as a municipality have absolutely no control over. We might have a little bit of influence on agencies and ministries that do have control, or I guess helpful supports for some of the things that have come up. So we've really had to think and work really hard to differentiate what can we do, what is our role, and what is an issue, but it's not our role based on the fact that we can't do a whole lot about it. So that's been a challenge in itself. Because some of the social issues in the community repeatedly have come up through feedback we received from residents. So we had to make some hard decisions around that. Like, what can we actually do? And what do we have control over?
And what can we acknowledge as part of the plan
Mhm.
that is integral to its success as well? Or how to feed that into and weave it into those solutions that hopefully will come.
I think in some ways, you know, in dealing with the social part, I mean, it's not gonna happen overnight, but I think if there's initiatives in place, we can see some baby steps moving forward and eventually over time, you know, I think so.
Just as a point of order, I know that there was another additional 5.2 under this one, right?
With the
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, as a point of order to the chair, are we just planning on going through like step 1, step 2, and then passing a motion to accept both reports, or do you wanna do one by one?
I think with this, the two meeting, maybe one motion, I think would be fine.
Okay, so I can make the motion to receive and file the downtown revitalization steering committee minutes.
Okay, second.
I'll start.
Councillor,
Pick one.
all in favor?
What'd you say?
You said pick one.
No, either.
I thought you said decline, I'm like, what?
Matt's flipping the table today.
I was deciding whether I use his first name or last name. Okay, and we had one addition was the report from the.
Yeah, at our last council meeting, there was some discussion about how the share of costs are broken down with the Lac La Ronge Regional Waste Management Corporation. So recently, within the bylaws had been in, new bylaws for the corporation had been in development for probably 2 years. With them finally getting signed on by all current member communities, which, I didn't actually put it in there, in December? Your last meeting, November, December, somewhere, end of the year, end of 2022. So the new bylaws were adopted, ratified, and administration should have a copy of those. So in those bylaws, it does state the authority for establishing the fees. So basically, the subheading is directors determine member fees. And the board of directors shall establish an annual operating budget for the corporation by November 30th of each calendar year. Member fees will be established based on the population served by each member. Fees will be invoiced at the beginning of each annual quarter. So currently, the member communities, because there are more coming on board as the member communities in the region and the partnership grows. So currently it's Town of La Ronge, Village of Araronge, Lac La Ronge Indian Band, and that includes the lots of Lac La Ronge Indian Band communities in there, as well as the NMTA. So Northern Municipal Services and that district within kind of the Lac La Ronge Planning District, those member communities are on board through NMS. And also partner communities that are not on board yet but will be coming on board include Morin Lake, Missinippi, Wayakwin, Brabant Lake, Timber Bay. So as it goes on, like for 2022, it was only the tri-communities, so Town of La Ronge, Village of Araronge, Lac La Ronge Indian Band, and the NMTA cost sharing piece. And La Ronge's population, so they're based on the 2020 population according to the budget document. Our population is 2969, Araronge 1142, Lac La Ronge Indian Band 3807, and NMTA 572. So that breaks down in percentage, and that is how the cost sharing is distributed.
So a question I'd have is the member communities that are potentially coming on, are they looked at as a partner in the corporation, or are they looked?
Some and some not. It depends if they're coming on as part of the agreement or if they're coming on as a user of the landfill. So I believe it's, for example, like South End is not part of the agreement, but they are hauling waste to that landfill. So they pay a certain
commercial.
Yeah, they're not a cost sharing fee. They're
Paid by weight.
yeah, they are a user fee.
So and then as each of these communities continue to come on board,
Yes.
we should see our rates drop.
Yes. So in theory, as more come on board, we're paying less of a percentage of the entire cost of the landfill. So in 2022, it was 0.3717 was our cost share. In 2023, it's projected, if all the communities are participating, to be 0.307. But that is based on budget, right? So if the landfill budget increases, it's not gonna be.
So the second part of my question would be, is there a rate that is being determined based on a capital contribution from individual partners that are coming on? Because right now we've got essentially a brand new landfill that we just put in a ton of like multi-million-dollar contracts towards, and
Capital was funded entirely. So the capital cost, the capital project has closed out,
right,
and that's done.
but we still had to pay about 1/12 of that, did we not?
There's still money allotted in that program to decommission.
Yeah, so I
the
believe
old-
any
the old
capital
site.
commitments we've already made.
However, at some point in time, there's gonna have to be a recognition of some of the equipment that's there now will have to be advertised.
And that's what more so I was looking towards is like, if we're bringing on more people into our landfill, that's a good thing from a business perspective, because then we can have more customers and clients to that. But at the same time, the more garbage going into that, the potential lifespan of our landfill is also decreasing, or the need for expansion would then be required again, which means the capital projects would also have to go along. And what I'm trying to avoid is if you will, a stock exchange kind of thing where we see prices go high when we do a capital project, and then they go down once we bring clients, and then come back up because we have to be prepared for a capital reinvestment of the landfill.
I think the life expectancy was based on the whole region.
Yeah.
For 25 years. And what would help increase the number of years would be more recycling. Make sure it keeps carbon, keep some of the other items out of the landfill. Make sure even, that the clean wood gets to where it's supposed to be as opposed to being covered.
And I guess the point that I'm making is that any surrounding community that is not in the TRAG community or the Northern Municipal Services does not necessarily have to do the administrative work of sitting on the director tables, getting the proposals ready and doing the administrative work to be able to apply for those. And is that being calculated into any long-term financial planning that over the course of the next 25 years that those administrative costs are recuperated over the amortization of 25 years?
They
So
also
when
pay
we-
a higher rate to dump their waste than we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
To cover that.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's all I was asking. Is
And
there some
there
sort of
is-
model in there that is
This
safeguarding
this
that?
was a very high level planned, deep and delicious capital project, which was a larger provincial, federal, all of the above project funding wise and everything else. So it does have a lot of longevity
Okay.
in the budgeting and stability promised throughout its lifspan.
Okay, that's answers my
And I
question.
guess one other point is we haven't really gone through one full year, so we don't know what the revenues from various sources are gonna amount to. It's sort of, at this point, it's sort of a guesstimate. And so as we go through 23, that'll give us a sense of maybe there, either that extra money, if there is any, could start a capital program, or we could actually work out cost to the community.
As more information becomes available through the use of the new cells, the directors can be presented with from the management to deal and distribute some of those costs, because the separate fees for non-members can start to include that. It's a matter of, do we overcharge at the beginning, or do we try and just edge it closer and make sure that we're operating revenue neutral and
So what we just adjusted our waste fees to 2 meetings ago, does that line up with what those numbers are projected?
I didn't actually directly look at that, I apologize, or I don't remember that I,
I think what we're charging per weight, I think is pretty much in line with other
Is the
centers.
numbers final?
yeah.
Standard across the province, yeah.
It would be more that the budget that was approved has an adequate amount to cover the
Yeah.
the requisition or whatever you wanna call it. And I don't think that there's any issue, it hasn't been brought to my attention.
And also as if there is demonstrable population numbers. For example, our 2020 population was 2,969. If there is an appropriate municipal census done here that is acceptable
And that
to,
contribution changes.
yeah,
I was gonna ask about that, the 2021 census was 25-21. Is the intent of the group to revisit those numbers anytime soon?
I haven't asked that question, but I believe, I missed the last meeting, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there, so.
I think proportionally, I think the percentages, I think, haven't changed much, because
Mhm.
some of the numbers, but I think it probably
Yeah,
needs
that
to be
number
revisited.
affects all of our, a lot of our grants that we apply for, so
Yes.
as our population went down, some of our grant
Yeah.
calculations go down, but in some of the fee-for-service arrangements, our share might also go down, so we just have to, I just was curious as to whether they were able to look at that.
Yeah,
So the commercial and residential adjustments that we made, did that take into consideration the projected revenues from the regional waste management?
So the way we would have done the budget is we would have had last year's fee and we would have added an inflation factor, and then we would have calculated, out of the budgeted amount, how much we need to collect from residential.
Move to accept the waste management report.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Motion carried.
I'll make a motion to enter the committee of the whole.
I'll second that.
Councilor Roos, all in favor? Carried. Okay, we have the committees of council, there's a list of the existing.
Yeah.
Terry, you don't do any committees.
So just as a point of order, the Northlands College Program Planning Committee does not exist and that needs to be taken off the list. I did inquire with them a couple times last year and it doesn't exist. So
also, has the Curling Club Standing Committee ever met?
I believe that that's just
It's-
for insurance purposes.
Administration will be reviewing that
Okay.
whole setup.
Okay. I just wanna make sure I'm not neglecting duties.
I don't know how else to describe it to you, but
Yep.
we'll be looking at it.
and then with the Downtown Revitalization Committee, that would need to be added on if it's going to be a standing committee of council.
At this point in the project, I would recommend.
It's more
No?
ad hoc.
checking
Okay,
that
so
one,
just
but
leave it off there, okay.
yeah, it's a defined period, so.
Okay,
The Environmental Quality Control Committee, they have been in contact with me and I filled out the paperwork necessary, so I'm just waiting to hear back from them. Warren Kelly is not, the chair there though. I think Gabe Andrews is the chair.
By minister's order.
Hmm?
Like Warren Kelly's there by minister's order. So,
but it expired June 22nd, 2020.
right, so then that's been replaced by Gabe Andrews, which is. I don't know. Terry, do you have requests?
Do I have a request? No. No,
Is
just
there
tell
any
me what
that
you
are
want me to
interesting?
do and
Is there a committee you're interested in that?
all of them.
Well, pick one because we can switch, right, every year?
Well, I don't mind that environmental quality control. I sat on the environmental committee up on MacArthur for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Actually, you would probably have a lot of really good information because it is about a lot to do with the relationship of mining in the north.
Absolutely.
So,
With the water and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that, I'm interested in that. Actually, to be honest, I'm not bullshitting. Excuse the language. I'm interested. I swore. Accept my apologies.
Yes, we do.
I'm interested in all those. I mean, you could put me in any one of those situations and I would fill in or whatever you would
I guess the question is, does anybody want to give up?
Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend environmental quality control because I haven't been to one meeting yet, and it's been 2 years. They're actually doing a criminal record background check on me now because it's, which I didn't understand because I said to get into council, I had to get it done anyways, but it's part of their,
Government of Saskatchewan.
you know.
They have it in
And it was weird because they sent off this thing that had a bunch of information it knew about me, and yeah.
well, they asked me for a criminal record check because I was the alternate, and I sit on the Concom board, which has already been approved, so I said, well, how can I sit on this board?
Yeah, the existing government-based committees, like provincial committees, they're a bit of a hassle to change some things, especially minister's orders, but
Like you could sit on it, you're not gonna have any meetings probably. I think it's
It'll just your name will show
it's
up,
a
that's it.
committee that's kind of
would
stagnant.
you be interested in serving on the Visions North board, or
There's a
Are those
Chamber of
daytime or
Commerce.
evening meetings?
Chamber of Commerce opening.
daytime?
Okay. I think it's important to know
I think we're
that. It's
not.
for each committee.
Chamber, Chamber of Commerce, we technically don't have a seat there, right?
Not a voting member.
Not a voting member.
Yeah, and you'll probably know more than I, but I believe that at some point you decided you didn't require a rep. I mean, obviously you have
Yeah.
someone involved there.
I'm just a member.
The Lac Orange Regional Water Corp's a good one. The meetings are held during the day though. Yeah, so they're daytime meetings. Those ones.
So, I guess a question is, I know that as the mayor, Mayor Hrdisky, that you have the right to go to any of the committees as an ex officio. Would you be willing to give up the two official places that you have on the regional waste and the regional water to provide Councillor Hunt the opportunity to join some of the committees, and you can still attend as an ex officio if you felt it necessary?
Yeah.
Right? If I'm not mistaken, our procedures are along the lines of the mayor is on every committee by ex
Yes.
officio?
Yes, that's the case. The only thing that I'm not 100% sure of is with regards to those regional, they're technically an entity that is separate, so therefore it's not, they should probably be recategorized on here. They're not technically a committee of council.
Okay.
They're more a representation on an entity that we're part of.
So we'd be giving up the voting rights for the councillor as well,
Yeah.
or for the mayor? On that committee, okay. You still comfortable?
Well,
Anyone looking for a change? I just don't know how we do this. Like, do we like apply for nominations into each one of our committees and
Well, does
we
it-
hold a vote amongst ourselves to see who sits there, or?
Does anyone want to give something up, willing to give something up in exchange for something else?
I'm gonna be careful on this one.
Okay.
The fire services, I definitely want to keep. I think we've done a lot of work there, and I think the continuity of that, I don't want to see myself leave. And as the chair right now, I'd like to keep that. But the L'Orange Public Library, I was also told by the board that if I leave again, that they're going to kneecap me. Not exact words, but they would like me to come back in some way, shape, or form. So I know that we've had a couple vacancies that I might be able to fill a non-government appointed position as a municipal councillor, but maybe as a community member I can get back to that board. So I don't want to say yes to either of them because I enjoy both of my committees extensively.
if you want to sit on the water board,
I would love to.
okay, I can still attend whenever possible, just until get your feet wet,
Absolutely.
okay?
Might need, get my feet wet.
Sorry, am I the only one?
But
I might need some coaching there.
Take a trip on the water board.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think most of the members of council are only on 2 or 3, so I mean, that would bring it to
No,
2.
I think that would be
Or an
a starting
alternate
point
on
anyway.
one, right?
Yeah, well, you're with me alternate on the
Airport.
ANPC, Advisory Northern Planning Commission.
Right.
And I would encourage you to attend the meetings. You're kind of a non-voting silent member there, but it is good to maybe catch up on some of the
Oh, yeah.
issues that are ongoing there.
Yeah. Like, is that once, every 4 months they meet, or what?
Approximately, depending what's.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Sometimes it's often, but
Yeah.
hasn't been for a while.
The next meeting with water board is next week.
Okay, that's good.
Yep.
Next Thursday, I think.
Next Thursday?
Or is it Tuesday or Thursday?
Tuesday, I think.
Well, Ryan and I were on that committee.
I won't be in town next
Yeah,
week,
okay.
so
Okay.
That one's in
you'll be at
transition
that
right
one
now
by
with,
yourself.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
we're still
their
missing
managers,
some
so,
tasks.
yeah, probably not the best
So,
time.
I guess as a point of order, would you need a motion to approve the appointments to committees?
When
Or
we,
how-
when we
once
come
we
out of committee, then we
finalize.
can make the motion that, to swap members to that committee.
So everyone's okay with that?
Okay, so Terry, you're on the water board,
I'm on the water board.
okay?
Thank you very much.
Don't hold your breath.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
we're pretty sharp here tonight.
We're all funny tonight.
Yeah, which is
Hey,
fine.
Dad.
Residential development strategy.
Okay, so that's the only change, or anything else?
That's okay.
But as a counselor, are we entitled to contact another counselor that's going to one of these meetings and say, hey, can I come and visit, sit in? Are you out of line for doing that? Does anybody ever do that, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You should, actually.
Feel free to get to know them.
Yeah, see what's going on.
If you have the time.
Yeah. If you want to show up, like, let the chair of that place know that, hey,
Exactly.
I'd like to just come and observe, and then that way it's not like, whoa, why do we have 3 Larange councillors here, and why are you wearing brass
Exactly.
knuckles?
Yes, be a
Yes.
guest. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll have a motion to,
Oh, are we
Let me
still
revise
in
the
committee
list
of the
with
whole?
Terry on.
Request for direction on the committee of the whole, we already went to that, residential
Development.
development?
We need to go to that.
That's what we're doing right now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a request for direction. Key questions at the end.
Maybe Mr. Long wants that. Go over it. Maybe.
Yeah, like, so, if I could speak to this for a minute. So just today, there was an article released, in LaRange Now, that LaRange long-term, like the new facility, is set to hire 137 new staff. With what it looks like, based on that article, 95% of them will be nurses, so it's 137 additional staff, right? So I know that staffing is always an issue in every organization in the community, right? But if, you know, SHA were lucky enough to be able to hire 137 staff and not have staff shortages, we don't have the capacity to house them. So that's something really important to consider when we're looking at this request.
And I think the other thing is, like, you know, we talk about the history, you know, over the last half a dozen years, hasn't been much activity. Last year, we had a contractor put up, 7 units, and there's more coming, so that's already skewed that.
Yeah.
And then when you look at now that the reality of the long-term care is in place, we need to come up with a strategy that it's affordable,
Right.
but yet we need to start
And if-
addressing that housing need.
Yeah, and if you recall, Mass School did a presentation to us, last year, in terms of their expansion just north of town. I don't know where that's at, but is that going to also imply additional housing required? And we've had conversations with RCMP, bringing additional members, housing required. So, you know, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, my concern is we're building lots and then having to sell them at a loss consistently,
Right.
right? If we're doing new lots at $121,000 a piece and we're struggling to get the money for the ones that we have right now, like what are we doing? Or are we subsidizing land for developers? Right? That would be my concern.
We're never gonna sell lots at $120,000 a piece, never.
So what do other municipalities do? Does everybody do it and take a loss?
What would be, I'm looking to administration on this, would it be appropriate for a motion to table to in camera if we were looking at the municipality as a developer? Would that be something that should be discussed in camera? Or would that be something that administration would think is better for open air?
It depends on the nature of the discussion, but what we can say in general is that a lot of municipalities, the question about how do they go about it if it's such a cost. Generally speaking, most municipalities aren't developers. Their private sector would develop, but you know, a lot of smaller municipalities where they may not have an option, that's where you'll see some of that.
We have a lot more hurdles for development in our area too than most southern communities do.
Bedrock.
Between
Blasting
and,
rock, yeah.
rock and trees and swamp and everything else that a lot of them don't have to deal with. It is more expensive to develop here.
But the demand is set, right? Right now, we are in an environment of growth, due to a couple of big projects, and the timing is right as long as it happens within the right time frame. I think the last set of the lots that were built in the Maori subdivision, my understanding of that is it kind of missed the boat, and the boom turned to a bust by the time they were done. So I think we've got some good staff response to anticipate what the demand is going to be, and to be able to keep that on the horizon and make sure that we create the environment for these things, so that we don't have to get into investing our own money too much.
I think if there's a way to reach out to some big developers and just encourage them to come, you know, based on the report, the need for housing, I don't think there's much risk other than not, you know, other than questionable cost of developing the land. Other than that, it's clear sailing.
Just on that note, Your Worship, I had discussions today with, real estate firms that look above and beyond to try to attract, you know, the development industry to certain areas, and, you know, it's not just a simple matter of listing things on realtor.ca, but actually trying to bring investment to the communities. And I had a good lengthy discussion, just as an example, with Colliers International today. I worked with them back in Ontario back in the day, and you know, they put together brochures, and they actually go after targeted potential clients to, so anyway, I had a good discussion today about that. And I think really what the whole purpose of this report is, you know, we were knowing that we needed to look at what we're going to be doing down the road here in terms of our residential land development in the Robertson Drive area and what have you. And, you know, we recognize that multifamily housing, you know, seems to be a premium. And I think in more ways than one, you know, you mentioned some examples already around the table, but, you know, someone that takes the day-to-day calls and talks to some of the folks that have ideas up their sleeves that they're looking at further on. And that's one of the first questions that they ask staff is about, you know, opportunities for housing for employees that they'll need to bring from the outside. And, you know, with any initiatives like we're undertaking at present, like downtown revitalization or Highway 102 corridor master plan development, you know, any of these opportunities that we hope to attract to our community are going to increase the demand for housing. If you don't have the housing supply, you can't really have the other. So, you know, we just wanted to bring to council's attention an opportunity, you know, at this point to start thinking about how we want to diversify our housing supply with our and I know I continue to refer to it as the Robertson Drive area, but you know, we have a big chunk of land there, and we have some good opportunities. And when you look at the concept, that plan that was originally prepared some years ago, it obviously just illustrates in a very generic way, you know, mostly single detached residential development throughout the entire area. There's an opportunity to say, okay, well, we've got the phase 2, it's registered right now. We know that the potential costs associated with servicing that are pretty extensive. We can look at maybe marketing that outside the area to see if we can attract, you know, outside interest to come, where they would just take the whole thing and agree to service it in accordance with our requirements. And we can work out whatever arrangements we want to do as part of that, whether it's even giving the land away, as long as we're seeing activity happening and the town's not stuck with the pretty heavy costs of servicing it, and then we can focus our staffing and monetary resources in other areas that maybe are more of a priority for us. And that would include looking at phase 3. You know, I just outlined it very generically on the mapping in the report. You know, going to the southwest towards Workman Street, you know, which is a main collector here in the community. We've got schools close by, we've got the grocery store, we've got quick access to Highway 2 and the downtown. So it probably makes a lot of sense to look at doing some multifamily there. So well, let's go and talk to some surveyors and look at doing some design concepts for that and changing that in terms of what you see on the concept plans that are prepared. And once again, bringing that back to the table here, talking to the real estate sector, bringing that back to the table here to see what kinds of arrangements we can make to try to promote, these opportunities. And I think we just need to start thinking about that really seriously. I know there's been some discussion about what we're going to do next and how we're going to kick that off, and so staff decided to take a real holistic approach to looking at it. Personally, being a newcomer here to the community, and I have my pulse on the real estate marketplace. I'm checking it out daily, and I'm going to sources like Facebook and checking with all the rental action or lack thereof. And so I know that there's some real need in certain areas, and I think we need to try to revise our plans to accommodate it. So I think staff can go ahead and do that and start kicking some things off to bring some ideas back to the table about taking more direct action in some of these areas.
I would be in favor of that, for sure. Exploring that further.
100% in agreement with phase 3. I think that's the direction we gotta go.
Yes.
It's closer to downtown, it's more opportunity, I think, for multi-dwellings.
Yeah, and I acknowledge that there is going to be a cost, but if we're looking at revitalizing the downtown, creating a highway corridor, revitalizing the community, like we have to. If we want people to move here and not consistently keep leaving here, right? We need to go down this road, maybe not to the full extent as presented, but at least initiate the process.
Yeah, creating the housing stock in all the different strata of somebody's residency in Lorange. So the ones that just move here and need a rental right away to be able to move in, that they know is safe, clean, and secure. And then be able to move from there maybe into a whole house to rent, and then from there they buy a house, and then from there bigger house.
Just like what I'm doing right now in my own personal situation,
Yeah.
it's a transitional thing, and my desires may be a little different than someone else's, but in understanding what's going on out there, I can really see, where we have some needs, and we should be doing to try to accommodate them.
Large supply of the top end housing maybe, and those that are able to build or able to do so, but it's not entry level purchased housing. That real estate I find is lacking, and there isn't the just rental in general is pretty short supply.
So right now, I've been told that there's some real opportunities through organizations like CMHC, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, that are geared specifically to the development industry, provide low interest rate loans to gear up multifamily type developments. And I discussed this with the realtors today that are involved in this kind of business with land developers, and that's what they're targeting at, because they can, with interest rates rising like they are, and then the demand for housing being what it is, that's where they get easy wins on the land development side of things. So in the midst of having that discussion, I quickly looked at our maps, and we have a couple of opportunities on Bedford Road already. We have a couple of good-sized parcels there that are zoned for multifamily purposes and have full access to services. So I really just said, hey, this is what we got. I'll start putting some stuff together for you. We'll start seeing what types of interest you can garner down in other areas. So.
Well, thank you very much for that report. I think
Thank you.
it kind of really sets the tone for where we gotta go, so. Any more comments? Not.
I think further
We'll move to rise
explore.
report. Moved by Councillor Lawson, seconder. Favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a motion for the committees. We have
I'll make a motion to appoint the councillors to the respective committees, resulting from the committee of the whole discussion. Good.
In favor.
favor? Motion carried.
I'd like to make a motion for administration to initiate the process of exploring additional residential development options in the proposed Robertson Drive area.
We'll do the motion.
I'll second.
Councillor Gregory, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, request for decision on parks, site selection.
I don't really have any questions. I Move to proceed with option B to designate Park Area 2 as the site development of a new park in partnership with Purchase Parks project.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Before you call a question, there's a few lots on Robertson Drive that are not quite adequate for building on. Has it been thought at all to maybe use some of those lots as a park area instead?
It was not.
Like there's a large outcrop of bedrock consuming a majority of those parcels of land.
No, again, we did not. We only looked at the areas that are shown in the existing concept plan as being potential park areas that are adjacent to the existing developed areas that are starting to grow. We didn't look at reusing existing lots within the subdivision. Now it was suggested that maybe we look at that, but we wanted to make sure we give ourselves enough room, enough area to work with a suitable park area that would accommodate the goals associated with the park as the park's plan, and then build on that success in the future if that park becomes popular.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather be 100% sure that those lots are not buildable. Right now we're speculating that they're not. I think we had an offer on some of those as part of the package a couple meetings back.
Not those ones.
I thought those numbers were on there.
I don't, while there may be unbuildable lots within the existing subdivision in the residential area, I don't necessarily see them being mutually exclusive, where there is unbuildable areas within the existing residential surveyed lots. Those can become mini parks or just green space, like just regular green space. This is kind of a neighborhood that is built in a way that offers maybe a little more opportunity for those nice little nesty green spaces. And I don't think it's necessarily a loss to not consider those at the moment, whereas we can in future, as the area gets built out, then dedicate those lands if required and build a natural park where there's the bedrock outcroppings, for example, something like that. But whereas the Purchase Parks project, it's going to be pretty heavily developed from what I understand, and a very active space from what I'm gathering. So having a large area that is buildable is...
Yeah, that would be the goals of the program, is to increase active living, so I'm imagining that the bigger the space, the more flexibility they may have to do things in there.
I guess a question for our admin team as well is looking into the the Bora trails that we as a municipality do already invest in. Is there a way to integrate a park that would be attached to that walking trail to try and drive a little bit more traffic to that? I see Park Area 1 is close, but Park Area 2, if you take the surveying line, we could potentially tie that into a finger to work your way into that.
It does run right by there. If it's going by the Borrow Pit, there is a trail that goes straight by there along that cut.
There is, and I have to say that that's one nice feature of the concept plan, is it does do good integration in terms of pedestrian movements and whatnot, not just along streetscapes where sidewalks may exist, but also along walkways and the like.
If possible, in future reports where it's overlaying some of our existing green spaces, could you get a hold of the data for the trails, the trail maps? Talk to Bora or just download off Trailforks if you can do that. Just so we can have them overlaid and understand their relation to some of these things, because I was looking at the aerial and I was like,
when it comes to when it comes to park development and residential development, I would hate to see financial dollars that we've put towards somebody to build a boardwalk, and you're like, oh, this residential area that we've just approved, it's going to completely destroy what we just put $100,000 towards, right? And that's I get it, development is necessary, and the original agreement was that we would invest in these parks until we needed the space. But if we can find a way to integrate that into just a normal green space for community, then that would be huge. So I have no problem supporting the motion for Area 2, seeing as that line does kind of contribute into that central part of La Ronge. I think that would be a good idea for us to be able to incorporate that.
I think that, you know, as part of any future planning we do in the area that's shown just as a concept and dashed out lines, we would put heavy emphasis on pedestrian connections and walkways and trails as part of our planning, especially since we control it all directly.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank
There will
you.
be a day when we grow into it, and that could be long past my days,
But that's gonna be.
but that whole area will eventually be housing. Or green
But they could
space or
have,
whatever.
they could continue to have that
No,
and
you have to have
reserve
green
that
spaces,
trail.
you can go from
Yeah.
green space to green space, I guess.
Think of all the golf course communities.
Build a bridge.
Fake lake, let's get a fake lake.
Fake lake.
On housing.
Get a little marina in between the two.
Call the
Okay,
question?
so we have a
Okay,
motion on the floor.
There's a pond
Call the
there.
question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Okay.
That's for that fake lake or what? Did we just vote on that, Joe?
No, no.
On the pond,
Like a-
golf courses around it. Just kidding.
Okay, we're taking applications for deputy mayor.
Yes.
If I may speak to it, the term for the deputy mayor is to conclude December 31st, 2022.
Oh.
But it was to be for our minimum up until a date, so if we wanted to extend that, that is up to council's decision.
Current is yourself.
Myself, yeah. So Jordan has been deputy, I've been deputy. So
I know you showed interest last time, and I said, yeah, we can be next if.
yeah, take turns.
Yeah, actually.
I let my name stand.
I'd support it.
What about you, man?
So it will be,
I thought,
when the minutes are approved at the next meeting, it will be officially the deputy mayor.
So we also need to do the signing authorities now? No, we've done the signing authorities straight to you now. Nice. You hold like pens or what? I'll make a motion to appoint Councillor Bashara as the deputy mayor for a term to
6 months, whatever.
a 6-month term.
June,
So it'll be in June.
yeah.
I'll second.
Or when's our July meeting? Technically.
Okay, call the question, all those in favor?
Right.
Motion carried.
Allison will work her administrative magic, I'm sure, on those dates.
Okay, next one is 7.3, request for decision airport's capital assistance program.
I'll move that council authorize entering into a CAP grant funding agreement for the airport.
Under option A.
I'll second.
Councillor Gregory, second the motion, any discussion? Call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion is carried.
You're at 7.4.
7.4,
The janitorial services?
request for decision on the janitorial.
I am going to declare a conflict on both items 7.4 and 7.5 as a conflict of interest, as I have close connections to people that are involved in both of those decisions.
I'll move that council proceed with option A, to authorize mayor and CAO to execute a 4-year general services contract with Northway Janitorial Services Limited, commencing March 1st, 2023, for the total amount of $174,843.78 plus applicable GST and PST.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay. Okay, request for decision on the arrears policy.
Move to approve option A, approve arrears policy 1011-01.
I'll second.
Councillor Gregory, second motion, any discussion?
I have one question.
Okay.
Is that for people that don't pay their taxes and abandon their property? Like, is this what we're on about here?
Or for anybody that is in arrears
Yeah.
in general.
Water bills,
Oh,
So that we
whatever.
can send it to
Business
collections
license,
automatically.
whatever.
Administration doesn't need a direction every time that happens, they can just do it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
just to clarify, of course, where taxes are involved, we're also subject to the legislation, so we would be following that process.
Yeah, and allows us to put the water bill onto the tax bill now and so forth, right?
Yeah, when that's available, we.
I'm reading it here now.
It's okay, it takes time.
Yeah, thank you.
Before,
Yeah.
before our policy changed, we had a little difficulty with the renters of property, and now,
Mm-hmm.
the way the policy is, we can transfer that to the owner of that property, which makes it a lot easier to collect.
Yes.
Which points did Jordan say he was in
Those
conflict?
two.
Just those two, yeah.
Did we already do the motion for this one?
Sure.
I don't think,
For the arrears policy, I made the motion,
Yeah,
Brian seconded.
I second
Yeah.
it.
It's already been voted.
It's
Okay.
been
just
done.
wanna make sure.
Sorry, I'm writing that.
He's an auction.
My head's still a
Do I have
bit
to go?
foggy. No, so not, just me.
Okay, I was like,
Okay, 7.6, request for decision on the auction of land of 744 Malby Crescent.
I'd like to move that we reject, this bid of $10,000 because it is not sufficient to cover the amount of outstanding arrears of taxes, penalties and costs. And I would include that we sell that land through a private sale process at the best price available.
I don't think you'll get more than what that offer is on the best price in the trailer court.
if I'm not mistaken, sorry,
Yeah,
am I okay to speak?
yeah,
I'll second so that we can.
question, yeah.
If I'm
discuss.
If I'm not mistaken, there is a development on that lot that would still need to be kind of demolished and rebuilt, and like it's not salvageable in its current state. Am I not mistaken? From I mean, the definition of salvageable is probably.
Well, it's basically an empty lot.
It's gone,
Yeah,
it's empty now.
Totally empty.
I drove by there this weekend.
That's why we got more expense than
Mm-hmm.
just the taxes.
And if I'm not mistaken, it is currently zoned at only a trailer, like it is a trailer court lot, correct? So right now, I mean, without building a new trailer on it, the average, like, if you went to like NLS, I think you're under $100,000 to buy a trailer in that area, or roughly 100,000. So like this is 10% of what it would cost to just basically buy something that's already pre-built in the area. I think that's fairly reasonable.
I think we should accept it.
How much are we, Jeff is gone, how much are we losing? What's the difference?
$11,000.
Enforcement costs 11,211. Well, we can,
Question for administration, what do you think the saleability of that lot is on the open market? Do we
First of
have
all, there
comparables, have we talked to
There
real
isn't available
estate?
trailer lots.
Well, I couldn't say, what I can say is council's probably aware of what we've been selling service single family lots for.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the only thing you could plus or minus from.
Right.
Have a sense?
And with that being considered, this is a pretty fair
Reasonable.
offer.
I would support the motion to,
The motion on the table is to reject.
you have to defeat this motion in order to put
Yeah,
forth
you-
another motion, right?
Yes.
We have to vote in favor of
You
it.
call the question and then if it fails, then a new motion can be put
So the motion's on the table. It's been seconded.
by Abby. What?
No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking and the thought isn't fully formed yet.
You can call the question, and if it's defeated, we can talk about it, bring it add a new motion.
I don't think we'd lose, I don't think we'd lose money if we didn't accept this and look for a better offer. I don't think we'd get less than that. That's just my feeling.
So what you're saying is you feel that 10,000 is good?
No.
I don't feel 10,000 is good. We keep giving away stuff, including our land, so I won't.
At least we'll make an effort to get a better price than that. I think that's
Yeah,
due
fit.
diligence.
But we just sold a bunch of lots that are 5 times the size of this in a brand new area
I know,
for $30,000.
but I wasn't fully in agreement with that either. I don't wanna see the prices go up, cause we just keep giving stuff away, so we're setting a precedence. We'll come to LaRange, they'll subsidize your living expense, your housing.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second, or,
Is, the zoning isn't that you can only exclusively put a trailer on that. You can put a tiny home.
probably put a modular home on
I
there.
think as long
It's
as it
an
has
R3.
wheels under it, right?
Is
You
it
have to have
R3
wheels.
district? Do we have an R3? Or is it R2?
Or
I'm just looking.
Yeah.
our maps are there.
No, we
Put
don't,
it on the zone
we don't
map
specifically
here.
deal with tiny homes as a separate entity, but it would certainly have to meet whatever CSA or building code requirements that was established on the law.
And,
Or if there, and I'm not sure if there is or not, if there was a minimum requirement in terms of floor area or whatever
Mhm.
associated with any particular zoning category, obviously would have to meet that as well.
in the other private trailer court, it's actually zoned for both, like trailers and modular homes.
Right.
Which are, would a modular home be acceptable on Dalby Crescent?
Yeah.
I'm just
We'll
pulling
just,
up.
we'll just pull up the zoning just to confirm for
If I
council.
can find it.
So should we table it till we have that information and carry on and we can go back, or?
Is this,
Well, somebody's got an offer on the table, so I think we have to deal with this
Okay.
part tonight.
Yeah,
So
like
let's
if
vote.
alternatively, if it fails, then we could, for example, list the property and then negotiate, take offers and negotiate on those.
Mm-hmm.
And you may or may not get more, like that would be the option, but.
is this on
Mixed
the,
density
sorry, just
residential?
to make sure I understand fully where this one is. Is it on the southeast side of the crescent, the
Be up near
park
the
side of the
top.
crescent, or is it up on the top corner closer to the highway?
No, it's like when
It'd
you're
be closer
going
to
up
that
Reese.
park there, you know where that park is? Yeah, it's close to there.
As soon as you turn out to Dalby, it's like the third or the third lot. When you're coming up Reese, turn out to Dalby, it's like 1, 2, 3.
Beside the pumping station.
Yes, right after the pumping station, I believe. So it's a long, narrow lot, right? But it's
Okay,
very pretty,
so-
and there's trees and there's grass.
Okay, we have a motioner, seconder, call the question. Those in favor of that motion?
To accept the offer?
No,
To
to
reject.
not reject,
Reject the offer.
Sorry?
to reject.
Those opposed to the,
I'll reject the offer.
okay, no one opposed to the motion.
The motion.
So the motion is to reject the offer. Can we call the question again just for a point of order? So
Okay.
everyone knows.
Call the question, those in favor of the motion that says we do not accept the offer? Those opposed? Motion is carried.
And we can confirm for council just the zoning here.
R3.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's a R3, which allows a range of housing types. I'm just, the only uncertainty I have is with respect to the modular. It does allow mobile, so I imagine if it does allow mobile, it'll allow modular, but I just haven't been able to identify clearly as of yet. whether or
Our
not-
definition is pretty gobbledygook.
Yeah, it's probably buried in another.
Mixed
Yeah.
density.
So it's rejected?
Yes.
And so as a result, administration will take this to market?
So I think that needs to be a motion. correct?
Barring a motion specifically stating that, we would attempt to resell the property.
Okay.
And when that went out for tender, there was a stipulation that we might not accept the bids that come in.
Yeah, we do not have to accept any of the bids that do not cover the total value of the property, taxes, all of the other costs, including tax enforcement. And that was stated on the bid.
Move to accept the building development report.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Brennan. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Move to accept financial reports.
Second.
And I move to enter into camera.
Oh, we're not
Oh, all
saying
those in
that.
favor, sorry.
Seconder to the financial reports.
I did.
So,
Yeah, all in
Fail,
favor.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Now we'll have a motion to enter in camera.
I move to enter in camera.
I'll second.
Councilor Fail,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody want a 5-minute recess?
Yes, please.
Sure.